Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing lesson 14 today for Wit and Wisdom. Our focus question is, how do characters respond to the powerful force of the wind? Our content framing is, what is happening in Gilberto and the wind? So in this lesson, we're going to begin with defining the word respond, which is a key word to understand in this new focus question, exploring how the characters react to the wind, and our character being Gilberto, right? Then we're going to identify story elements in Gilberto and the Wind in preparation for retelling the story. And then finally, we're going to examine the importance of having responses to a problem and a resolution in the story. Okay? All right. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to our video.
Hello, fantastic first graders, and welcome back to Wit and Wisdom in Sync. My name is Tanisha Spears, and I'm so excited to jump into our lesson for today. But before we do, let's make sure you have your materials ready. For this lesson, you will need your Wit and Wisdom in Sync journal and a pencil. Pause the video now if you need to gather your materials. In previous work, you had an opportunity to identify story elements and the problems in Gilberto and the Wind. And today you'll continue to think about what is happening in this text, as well as think more about problems and resolutions. But before we do that, let's think about the question that is focusing our work with this text. And that question is, how do characters respond to the powerful force of the wind? Now, I am going to present you with something that might happen, and you should use your face as well as your arms and your hands to show what could happen next. I'll say it one more time. I'm going to present you with something, and you should use your face as well as your arms and your hands to show what could happen next. Are you ready? The wind blows dirt in your face. What would you do? Did you use your facial expressions or your arms or your hands to show what you would do? I bet you did. You acted in a certain way in response to something that happened. So I asked you what you would do if the wind blows dirt in your face, and you acted in response to that. So you might have done an action like brushing the dirt off your face, or by showing a facial expression of anger or sadness. Now, let's go back and look at the focusing question for the text Gilberto and the Wind. And that question again is, how do characters respond to the powerful force of the wind? Point to the word respond. Repeat after me. My turn. Respond. Your turn. Respond. Respond means to react to something. So when we are thinking about response, we're thinking about how characters respond to the wind in this text. Now, the question that will frame our work for today is, what is happening in this text? So I want you to think, when you organize your thoughts about a story, what do you do? When you organize your thoughts about a story, what do you do? Think. Now lock it in. Here's what I think. When you're organizing your thoughts about a story, you're trying to figure out what is happening in a text. Is that what you thought? I bet it is. And one way to help organize what's going on in a story is by identifying the story elements on a story map. So today you'll be organizing or figuring out what's happening in Gilberto and the Wind. What do you notice about the story map that you see on your screen? What do you notice? What's different? You may have said it. This story map lists events rather than problem and resolution, and events are what happens in the story. Now, in Gilberto and the Wind, you'll be looking at major events of the story because the story doesn't have one clear problem and resolution. I'm going to read page 1 of the text, and I want you to listen for the characters in the story. I am Gilberto, and this is the story of me and the wind. Did you listen for the characters? Share with your learning partner or share aloud a character you heard in the story. Did you hear Gilberto? I heard him as well. Gilberto is the main character in the story. Now, what do you think about the wind? Is the wind a character or not? Is the wind a character? Why or why not? Share with your learning partner or just share aloud.
It's throughout the story, but it's not really a person, but it's a thing, and it reacts to different things. So what do you think? Is he a character? I think so, because its name is capitalized and because Gilberto talks to it and he plays with it. But then again, the wind isn't alive either, is he? Let's see.
Now, you might have different opinions about this question, so I want you to think about this. What else do you know about characters? What else do you know about characters? Here's what I know about characters from some of the books that we've read. Usually characters are people or animals, and characters do things in the story. Now, in this story, the wind can often seem like a person and does things like a person would do, like play with Gilberto. So that makes me think that a character can be someone or something, since the wind is described as if he were a person in this book. So I'm going to add him to the story map along with Gilberto. Now remember, the setting is when and where the story takes place. And now what I'd like you to do is share your ideas about the setting of this story with your learning partner, or just share aloud.
So where do you think the story takes place? They're outside Gilberto's house, don't you think? Yeah, but then he's inside also. Can it take place in both places? Sure can.
Here are a few settings I thought about. I thought about Gilberto's house, the pasture, the meadow, the pond, or the fence. And I thought of those things because the story begins inside of Gilberto's house, but then it moves to places like the pasture or the meadow.
Yes.
And these places are all outside of Gilberto's house. So I am going to add a house with arrows that show outside and inside Gilberto's house to the story map. The next part of our story map is the event. An event is what happens in the story. So I am going to reread sections of the book to identify the events of the story. Let's start with this page. Listen carefully. I hear wind whispering at the door. He whispers, "Yoo." So I get my balloon and I went out to play. What happened on this page? Let me think about the event. The wind calls to Gilberto through the door, so he goes out to play with the wind. I use the picture of a door to put on the story map because it will help me remember the first event, the wind calling out to Gilberto through the door, asking him to come and play. Okay, friends, now we're going to work together to add some key events to the story map. I'm going to reread sections of the text and you will identify the key event by explaining what happened on the pages to your learning partner. And don't worry if your learning partner is not available. Just explain aloud. Listen to these pages. At first, Wind was gentle and just floats my balloon around in the air. But then, with a jerk, he grabs it away and carries it up to the top of a tree. Wind, oh wind, I say, blow it back to me, please. But he won't. He just laughs and whispers, "Phew." Now I want you to think, what is happening on these pages?
Think about what's going on this page. What's the wind doing? The wind is picking the balloon and carrying it gently up to the top of the tree, right? He grabs it, but it doesn't pop. Okay.
Your learning partner, or just share aloud. Here's the event I identified from these pages. The wind grabs Gilberto's balloon and carries it to the top of a tree. Did you say something similar? I'm sure you did. Let's keep going. And the wind loves umbrellas. Once when I took one out in the rain, he tried to take it away from me, and when he couldn't, he broke it. Think. What is happening on these pages?
What happened on this page? The wind breaks the umbrella, doesn't he? Okay, so I'm going to write that down too. Wind breaks umbrella. Okay.
Now share with the learning partner or just share aloud. Did you share?
We did.
Here's the event that I identified. The wind tried to take away Gilberto's umbrella and then breaks it. Let's keep going. And when I have a pinwheel, wind comes in place too. First, I blow it myself to show him how. Then I hold it out or hold it up, and wind blows it for me. And when he blows it, he turns it so fast that it whistles and sings, and all I can see is a blur. Okay, friends, think.
What does the wind do? He plays with the pinwheel. So I'm going to write that on our board also. Wind plays with the pinwheel. Great.
What is the event that's happening on these pages? Now share with the learning partner or share aloud. Here's the event I identified. The wind blows Gilberto's pinwheel and makes it turn and whistle. Okay, last page. But then comes a day when Wind is all tired out. Wind, I whisper, oh Wind, where are you? Answers Wind, and he stirs one dry leaf to show where he is. So I lie down beside him and we both go to sleep under the willow tree. Okay, think. Now share with your partner or just share aloud. What is the event on this page?
I think they take a nap, don't you? The wind calms down and takes a nap. So the wind takes a nap. Okay.
Did you share the event?
I'm
sure you did. Here is the event I identified. Gilberto and the wind are tired and lay down under a tree to take a nap together. Did you say something similar?
I did.
I bet you did. All right, so let's take a look at our story map so that we can review. We know that the characters are Gilberto and the wind,
Yes.
and that the setting was inside and outside of Gilberto's house.
Yep.
Here are the events we identified. We said the wind calls to Gilberto through the door, so he goes outside to play with the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wind grabs Gilberto's balloon and carries it up to the top of a tree.
Yes.
The wind also tries to take away Gilberto's umbrella and breaks it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wind blows Gilberto's pinwheel and makes it turn and whistle.
Yes.
Finally, we identify that Gilberto and the wind are tired and lay down under a tree to take a nap together.
Yes.
Now that you understand the characters, setting, and events, you're going to retell Gilberto and the wind to a learning partner. If your learning partner is not there, you can try and retell it to your pet or your stuffed animal. And if you don't want to try retelling it to any of those, just retell aloud. All right, friends, are you ready?
Yes.
Now, before you record your retelling of Gilberto and the wind, I want to remind you that you can refer to the story map for support if you need it. I've left the key events that I identified on the slide for you to refer to. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Pause the video now to record your retelling of Gilberto and the wind.
All right, my friends, I wrote it down because I knew I wouldn't remember it. So, Gilberto and the wind are the characters. The setting takes place outside and inside. The events. The wind asks Gilberto to come outside and play. Well, while Gilberto's outside carrying a balloon, the wind grabs the balloon and carries it away. The wind also breaks an umbrella that Gilberto is carrying. Gilberto is playing with a pinwheel, and the wind wants to play with the pinwheel too. He makes it go faster and faster. And at the very end of the story, the wind and Gilberto are tired, so they lay down and they take a nap. All right. Let me move this.
Okay, if you need to, pause the video to take a moment to stretch or take a quick break. When you're done, unpause the video. Welcome back, friends. As we continue to think about responses, I want you to think about this question. Why is it important to have responses to a problem and a resolution? Remember, the story of Gilberto and the wind had many events rather than just one problem and resolution. And authors can write stories in many different ways. So today you will examine another way to write a story that is different from Gilberto and the wind. There's a story I'd like to share with you, and you can see the story on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to listen carefully as I read. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Kent. Kent went to the ice cream store and bought an ice cream cone. Suddenly, he dropped his cone. I'm going to reread the story, and this time you should listen very carefully and point to the story element at the bottom of the screen that matches what I read in the story. For example, if I mention a character, you will point to the character icon at the bottom. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Listen. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Kent. Did you point to the character icon?
We did.
Kent is the main character in my story. Let's keep going. Kent went to the ice cream store and bought an ice cream
setting.
cone. Did you point to the setting?
We
Because the
did.
setting is the ice cream store. Suddenly, he dropped his cone.
Oh, that's a problem.
I'm sure you pointed to the problem because that is a problem that Kent has.
Yeah.
Now, what is missing from this story? What is missing?
The resolution.
You pointed to the resolution icon because the story is missing a resolution or an ending. Okay, I know how I want the story to end, but somehow it doesn't sound quite right. So I want you to listen to the story again and listen to my resolution. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Kent. Kent went to the ice cream store and bought an ice cream cone. Suddenly, he dropped his cone. The ice cream man gave him another one. Now, although I think I have a pretty good ending, the story ends too quickly. I want the story to be more interesting and to make sense. So, what could Kent do to respond or react to the problem of dropping his ice cream cone? I'm going to say that again. What could Kent do to respond or react to the problem of dropping his ice cream cone? Think. What could happen next? Now.
Think about that. Okay, I hope you're thinking.
You're going to help me improve my story by adding a response to the problem. Remember, the question is, what could Kent do to respond to the problem of dropping his ice cream cone? How could he react? Think.
I know.
Now, pause the video to draw or write to show one way Kent could respond.
Okay, I want you to write or draw one way that Kent would react in dropping his ice cream cone. What would you do if you dropped your ice cream cone?
I really wish I could see what you've written. Here's some things that I thought of. Kent started crying, and Kent asked his mother for another cone. Now, I don't know about you, but the story will be much more interesting now that I have some ideas for adding a response. And I am going to add this element to my narrative writing anchor chart. And you will see I added response to the problem to my anchor chart, and I added it between the problem but before the resolution. In the next lesson, you'll write how Gilberto might respond to a problem he has with the wind. All right, awesome first graders. Nice job identifying events in the text Gilberto and the wind. Next time, we'll continue with the text Gilberto and the wind, but until then, be kind and do something great because you are capable of greatness.
Okay, so let's escape and let's go ahead and look at our fluency homework. Gilberto and the Wind by Marie Hall X. I hear wind whispering at the door. You, he whispers, you. So I get my balloon and I run out to play. At first, wind is gentle and just floats my balloon around in the air. But then, with a jerk, he grabs it away and carries it up to the top of a tree. Wind, oh wind, I say, blow it back to me, please. But he won't. He just laughs and whispers. No. All right. So let's stop sharing. All right, my friends. So that is the end of that lesson. So let's look at our deep dive today. Today, we're going to look at some strategies that we've learned to help us be a word detective when we're reading. So when you're being a word detective, what do? Do you look at the illustrations and pictures? I do. And do you look around in the sentence to see if there's words that you know? Yes, that's smart. Okay, so I am going to show you a page in our book, Gilberto and the Wind. I am going to show you page 2. And it says, at first, wind is gentle and just floats my balloon around in the air. Oops, got a big old glare, didn't we? All right, so there's our picture. Okay, so what do you think the word float means on that sentence? The wind is gentle and just floats my balloon around in the air. So if you're looking at the picture, what's the balloon doing? It's floating, isn't it? Okay, so we looked at a picture to help determine the meaning of the word. And it says, the words say, the wind is gentle and floats my balloon around in the air. So it kind of moves around, doesn't it? Yes. So we can say float means to move slowly in the air or to stay in one place, maybe. We looked at the picture to help us figure out what float means. We looked at the balloon Not moving very fast. It just kind of moves around gently. All right. So we know that float means to drift or move slowly in the air without landing. All right. So now we're going to look at another word on this same page. We're going to look at the word carries. Carries. And I'm going to read this sentence to you on this one. But then with a jerk, he grabs it away and carries it up to the top. Okay, so carries. There's that page. And carries on this page. When the big boys on the hill have kites to fly, wind helps them out. Wind carries their kites way up to the sky and all around. Okay, so what do you think carries means? Let's be a word detective. If we look at the pictures, it says wind carries their kites to the sky. So the kites are way up high. All right, and if we go back to our first page, the balloon is floating up. So do you think carries means to take from one place to another? Because the balloon is moving in a direction up to the tree. And then over here on this page, the kites are moving up in the air, aren't they? Yes, so carries means to take from one place to another. All right, my friends, that is the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you back here tomorrow for our next one. Bye, my friends.